So, welcome back to the Big Beefy Podcast. We have Joe and Brett here today. So, Joe, what are some benefits of general physical activity?
Well, some of the benefits include reducing your risk of a heart attack, managing your weight, having a lower blood cholesterol level, and having lower blood pressure.
A lot of benefits. How long does a person have to work out to see these health results?
Well, to maintain health and reduce your risk of health problems, health professionals and researchers recommend a minimum of 30 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity on most to all days.
And does a person need a certain skill set to become physically active?
Basically, no. Increases in daily activity can come from small changes made throughout your day, such as walking or cycling instead of using the car, or using the stairs instead of your elevator or escalator.
All right, last question, Joe. What are some foundational movements seen in weightlifting that can be seen in everyday life?
Well, the squat, hip hinge, overhead press collectively work all the muscles in the body and enable a person to perform any other movement he or she may need to during daily activities. For example, if you squat down to look at something with a low viewpoint, you just use the squatting movement. If you bend over, pick something up, and then place it on a shelf overhead, you just perform the hip hinge and overhead press movements.
Nice. Brett, why should I work on strengthening these movements?
Well, Alex, building strength and endurance in these movements transfer over into every activity as well. For example, if you build lower body, posterior chain, and core strength from the squat and hip hinge, every movement that uses the muscles that comprise these groups will benefit as a result. For example, if you increase your lower muscular ability, you'll be able to stand longer, walk further, push objects longer, and just overall perform better using the associated muscle groups.
Nice. What is a hip hinge, and what exercise shows this in the weight room?
Hip hinge is commonly referred to as the deadlift or any type of RDL where you have to bend over from your hips to pick something up off the ground. It's through the hip joint, and you need to keep a neutral spine, and the knees will be slightly flexed throughout the movement.
So when you're training strength, how many sets and reps of an exercise should you do for endurance?
Well, for sets and reps for strength, you want to keep the weight high, reps low, and for endurance, you want to keep the weight low and reps high. And for gaining muscle mass, which is also called hypertrophy, you do 3 to 6 sets of 6 to 12 reps at 70 to 80% of your max, and muscular strength will be in the ranges of 2 to 6 sets of less than 6 reps at 80 to 90% of your max.
And last question, what does the FIT principle mean?
The FIT principle is a formula that is used that stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. For frequency, it refers to the frequency of exercise undertaken or how often you use the exercise. Intensity means how long or hard you train in that exercise. Time refers of how long you exercise for, and the type refers of what type of exercise you are performing. And I actually have a little graph here that shows that an example of training under the FIT principle in regards to strength. For beginners, the frequency of exercise will be 2 to 3 days per week, where you're training full body, 6 body areas for no longer than an hour since you're a beginner. But for intermediate to high level athletes, they train 4 to 5 days per week, and they usually do a split. So Monday, Tuesday, they could do upper body. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, any of those days, they could do lower body. For intensity, or how hard they go, beginners should stay around 60 to 70% of their max strength. And for intermediate to high, again, they go to 70, 90%. For time of exercise, in regards to how many reps, sets, and how much time they rest, beginners would like to stay in that 1 to 3 set, 8 to 12 rep range, and they should rest for probably around a minute, 90 seconds at most. And for intermediate to high, this is when you could touch in onto the endurance and strength, and you could really play around with it. So for endurance, you could go around to 12 to up to 20 plus reps for 2 to 3 sets. And this is where you get into as many reps as possible, or AMRAP, or go into just until failure. And for strength, you want to stay below 6 reps for 3 to 5 sets with a much longer rest, closing into 5 minutes. And the type of exercise all depends on what the individual wants that day. So you could have your traditional powerlifting movements such as the bench, squat, or deadlift, or you could use any type of free weights, resistance training, medicine ball, or you can even use your own body weight to train in your house.